Hi, my name is Kunal. I am the founder of the Clinical Trial Podcast, where my job is to help you accelerate your clinical research career. In this episode, I want to talk to you guys about how to get a job in clinical research. That's one of the most frequently asked questions that I get, and I wanted to make sure I was addressing this. So in this video, I'm going to share with you my experience trying to get into the field and then the people that I've worked with over the years and how they've been able to get a job into clinical research. The strategies that I explain in this video apply to anybody. It doesn't matter where you're entry level or if you're a seasoned professional that is trying to transition into a career in clinical trial management or just clinical trials in general. So I'm going to share with you 5 strategies. Of course, there's way more things that you can do, but I think these 5 are foundational strategies that can work for anybody at any time. The first strategy I would say is picking up the phone and calling the hiring manager. I can't emphasize how important it is for you to actually call the company and say, hey, can I speak to Mr. Smith? And Mr. Smith is VP or Director of Clinical Affairs at any biopharmaceutical company, clinical research organization, clinical trial site, you name it. But you do want to talk to somebody who is responsible for making the decision, the hiring decision. And this is obviously a cold call and you'll have to prepare for the call. Sending emails can only get you that far. Yes, it's important to start with an email, but you do want to always follow up with a phone call. Phone calls are super, they're very difficult to do for some people, but if you can push yourself to find the information for the hiring manager and really call the office line and talk to a live human being, and then tell them, hey, I'm Kunal. I noticed that you're looking to hire clinical research professionals. I think I could do the job. Is this a good time for us to have a conversation? But really, starting that conversation on a phone call is really important. Second strategy. So this is something that I did myself very early on in my career. I actually used to be a volunteer at Boston Medical Center, and I worked with a physician in the neonatal intensive care unit. And one of the things that I unknowingly did at that time was actually I worked on a research project it was a retrospective study where I did a chart review with this physician. And that's strategy that anybody can do. You basically would partner with a physician at an academic institution. Most physicians are looking to publish, in some sort of a journal. But even if you don't do a journal publication, you could do a presentation at a congress. It could be a poster presentation. Doesn't have to be very complicated. But yeah, I did a retrospective chart review. It took me 6 months to really get all the data from the charts and the medical records. It doesn't have to take you 6 months. I was literally doing this like 3 hours a week, which wasn't like a lot of time. But yeah, if you have more time on your hands, you could do this pretty quickly. And this was about 20 years ago. So you can do a lot more things with technology much faster today. But yeah, I think doing a retrospective chart review and then putting together a presentation or publication or poster and then publishing at a congress, I think that really gives you a lot of visibility and a lot of information or like experience to talk about during your interviews for clinical trial roles. And the best part is that a publication that you do at a congress or even in a paper that stays with you for your whole career and something that you can lean on for your whole career. But say you don't know how to get hold of a physician at an academic center. I get it. Maybe you're not near an academic center. It's really hard for you to get to an academic center. You could also do like an online. You could write an article for one of the clinical trial website. So for example, I would highly recommend you check out Association of Clinical Research Professionals. That is by far my favorite organization. It's a nonprofit organization that works, to enhance and improve the clinical research landscape. So highly recommend that organization. Check it out, and then you could write an article for ACRP. The other option is to look into websites like Clinical Trial Leader. I did that myself. I used to write a lot of articles for Clinical Trial Leader, and you can do that even if you just have, if you're just starting into clinical trials. You could talk about your journey and the challenges you're facing. Something that can be beneficial to other people, I think is always helpful. So, those are just a couple of online journals. There's way more that I can cover in this episode, but I just want to point out that that's something that you can do. So that's our second strategy, doing a publication, whether it's in a journal or, in an online article. format. The third strategy I would say is using the STAR format when you are in interviews. So maybe many of you actually do get interviews, but then you never actually pass through the interview phase on the other side. And I get it. I think interviews can be intimidating for some people, especially then when like group interviews, it can be very stressful, and you kind of are not sure how to talk to the hiring manager or the interview team. And one of my favorite strategies, and I think a lot of big companies use this, is the STAR format, which is situation, task, action, and results. So those are the 4 things you want to talk about. So if you get asked a question, you answer the question in the STAR format: situation, task, action, and result. The main thing here that I feel people get wrong is they get the situation right, they get the task right, but then when it's talking about action and results, they talk about things in a general manner. So you want to make sure that anytime you talk about a situation and a task, the action and the result has to be very specific to what you did as a person. Don't tell them like, oh, my team did this, and then here's the action we took, and here's the results we got. That's not what the hiring manager wants to know. The hiring manager wants to know exactly what you did as an individual in that specific project, or in that role. So, basically, to recap, use the STAR format, prepare a situation, a task that was assigned to you, the action you took, and the results that you got for the company. That's really what matters. So one of the cool strategies that I tell people is like prepare 5 or 7 examples in the STAR format before you go to the interview, and then depending upon the question that the hiring manager will ask you, you can just pull one of those 5 or 6 STAR format responses that you already have in the back of your head, and then explain them to the hiring manager or the person that's interviewing you. So highly recommend doing the STAR format. So far we've covered 3 strategies. My 4th strategy is being generous on social media. I see so many people on LinkedIn and they are trying to connect on LinkedIn and sending all these messages. I just had somebody message me the other day, oh, can you pass on my resume to this person, that person? And then they attach their resume on a LinkedIn message, and then they were expecting me to pass this resume to this hiring manager of this other company. This is like a really lazy way of really networking, and I would not recommend it. Instead, what I would do is actually try to make meaningful connections on LinkedIn, obviously with people, which you already are. You are connecting with the people probably at Abbott or at Pfizer or at a large clinical trial site or at a CRO like IQVIA, and you're making those connections. But what you want to do is you want to go a step further and you actually want to engage with that person. So maybe there's a director of clinical research that's on LinkedIn. You actually want to comment on her post, maybe share her post, something that you found insightful. Really, give your likes, thumbs up, whatever it is. Really want to engage with that person. I think you want to do that at least 2 or 3 times before you actually ask for a call with this person, if not more. I think it's a really undervalued strategy, and I think making a generous posture on social media can be really, really game-changing for your career. So try to be generous. Don't hold back your likes. A lot of people will just scroll through the feed, but they will never comment on other people's posts. And I think that kind of what is something that you don't want to do. You actually want to do the opposite, where you actually want to comment and engage and like and so on. My 5th strategy is as follows. So I think every job has a job description, and I would do that at any level, whether it's an entry level, mid-level, senior level job. And I think what you want to do is take a look at the job description, take a look at the key responsibilities, but also look at what are the job requirements. And then I would do a skill assessment. So there's a lot of times that you may not have certain skills, or may not really may not be aware that you need those skills to perform that role. And a lot of times when you go to the interviews or when you're having these telephone conversations with the recruiter, they are going to make sure that whether or not you have those requirements met. So it's really using that as a checklist. Any job will have anywhere from 5 to 15 requirements and responsibilities and things that they're looking for in this individual. So you want to really study the job description. And then you'll say, okay, I have the skill gap. Maybe your job description says, oh, experience with managing clinical trial budgets. And I say, if you've never managed a clinical trial budget, that's completely fine. But I think what you want to do is maybe you want to think about an example, maybe a project that you worked at in your college, maybe a course that you took, somewhere you kind of created a budget. I think it doesn't matter even if it's not a clinical trial budget, but you really want to think about like experiences that you've had in your career that are related to each of those job description requirements. That really helps prepare you for these interviews. And then if you don't have a certain skill, then go and get that skill. I'm a huge believer in like continuous learning, and yes, you want to get those certifications and so on, and that's great. But I think you want to try to figure out ways to fill those skill gaps, because that's what's going to make you more valuable in the marketplace. Another cool strategy, and this is like a bonus strategy I'll give you guys, is skill stacking. So yeah, you have you may have certain skills that are in this in the clinical trial landscape, but maybe do you have better public speaking skills, or do you have good communication skills, or do you have better writing skills? Something that's going to layer on top of your foundational skills. So a lot of people have like great foundational skills. They've maybe done even a master's in clinical research, but then they can't present, or they can't in front of a group of people. So if you can do if you don't have those public speaking skills or communication skills, then go build those skills, and that will help you kind of advance to the level to the next level. So I hope these 5 strategies were super helpful as you go out and look for that next clinical research opportunity. See you next time.